Hey, visionaries. Welcome back to the Your Biggest Vision Show. I'm your host, Leah Gervais, and today we have a very special guest, one of the most special guests ever that I've had because she is the operations manager of Urban 20 something, and she is my sister. Hi, Abby.
Hi, thanks for having
Thanks. Thanks for doing this.
me. Of course.
So, Abby and I kind of wanted to do a combination of episode purposes here for you guys. Back in February, I did kind of like a behind the scenes episode on what the month looked like for me as a person and as a business owner. And I got a lot of really great responses on that about, about what people learned about during that. And so we decided to kind of keep the theme going. So we wanted to do a behind the scenes of March as well. And I don't think anyone could have predicted what March would turn into as the coronavirus hit in March and as the world as we knew it kind of turned upside down. But we still wanted to do it. And we thought actually kind of all the more reason to do it. So we are here to share what March was like behind the scenes of Urban 20 something, what it was like financially for me, what it was like for us to decide to work together as Abby left her 9-to-5 job to come full on onto Team Urban 20 something. We're going to talk about her getting the coronavirus, recovering from the coronavirus, and kind of everything in between. So that is what is in store for us. And I also really wanted you guys to get to know Abby. So with that, Abby, I would love for you to just kind of start and share how you ended up in New York and maybe a little bit about yourself in the sense of how you think it might have ended you up here working for a small business with me.
Okay. Yeah, so after I graduated college, I moved to New York about 3 months afterwards. And my senior year of college was when I realized that I wanted to start my career in New York City. And it's just because I wanted something very different from the Colorado lifestyle. I went to school in Boulder, and I always loved New York, loved the energy, and I knew there was so much opportunity here. And so I took the first job that I not applied to, but interviewed with, and they hired me at an investment bank. Was my first job, which was crazy because I was a sociology major, but I was so grateful to have the opportunity. And after about a year there, I just kind of realized, living in the city and watching what Leah did, I knew there was so much more out there for me. And I was just kind of itching for that feeling of doing something new and learning something new. I feel like I had gotten the most out of that job at the investment bank that I was at. And so I want to do something that was completely out of my realm and out of my comfort zone. And just when I started working part-time for you back in, I think it was September, October.
Yeah, sometime
I
in the fall.
realized, yeah, I just realized that there's so much out there. Like your community was so awesome to, see them working with you and everything. And so I feel like it was kind of my calling after a couple months of working with you that this was what I wanted to do next and see where it took me.
Awesome. What a cool story. Yeah. So you started doing some work for me in the fall, sort of like out of just like, we didn't really think it through, I just sort of like needed help and you were
Mm-hmm.
interested in learning more. So we just kind of did it. And then you were like the best person, like best contractor I ever had. You were like so much more on it than so many people.
Thank you.
So I was like really excited about that and just wanted you to be doing more. And so then we started talking about you leaving your job. So tell us a little bit about what was kind of going through your head at the time. I mean, most people listening to this are entrepreneurs, so maybe they've already quit their jobs or maybe they want to.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, you still were kind of taking that risk of deciding that you were going to leave this really structured, really well-paying, like really prestigious job. And even though it's not quite the same risk as starting a business from nothing, you're still kind of like, you're taking a chance on me, you're taking a chance on yourself. Like how did you become okay with that?
Mm-hmm. So I guess a couple of things. First, I'm still pretty young. I'm 25 years old. I knew that I wasn't going to be at this job forever, and um, just based on our parents' work ethic and watching you, I knew that taking risks is one of the best things that you can do in your life and for your career. And so I thought this was the, best time to do it. I mean, there's no better time than right now, so I
In the
knew that. And
present
then,
moment. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And secondly, you were doing so well with the business. I could tell it was really taking off, and I was really excited for you. And I knew that, I mean, I wanted to be a part of it, and I wanted to succeed together and see what we could do as a team. So it just really excited me, and just working with my sister, I thought, would be a great opportunity. So, yeah, I
Were you
guess
scared?
just, I was, yes, but I also know that like you are one of the most like motivational people, and you always
Oh,
succeed. You you're a very hard worker. I knew we weren't going to fail whatsoever, and I thought working underneath you it's kind of like an honor, because I can learn so much from the way you work and your mindset and everything. And so I was a little bit scared, just because I'm your first full-time employee, so it's a little nerve-wracking, but at the same time I never doubted you and or what we could do together.
oh, thanks, Abs. Cool. Okay, so we just kind of going chronologically here. We make the decision, I think, in like January or February that
Hmm.
you're going to quit your job in late March and then start at the beginning of April. And that works for my business because I kind of have an off calendar year. And like April, May is kind of like our beginning of the year. So that worked well to have her come on full time that way. And for certain reasons, Abby wanted to stay at her job for a little while longer. But that became the plan. And so we started kind of working toward like what we needed to do to get her ready. And we kind of had this luxury of like onboarding her while she was, like kind of on the side of her old job, which made me feel a lot better because I, know that usually if you hire someone full time, it's a big learning curve for them. And so being able to kind of mitigate some of that before she was full time was really helpful. But we had no idea the wrench that was going to be thrown into all of our perfect plans then. So let's go ahead and like come to March, because that's really what this episode is about. And March is already kind of a funky month for us anyway, because in March of 2018, our dad suddenly passed away, which I talk a lot about. And that definitely rocked our world. So like, what was it like for you going into March this year, knowing that you were going to quit your job soon, kind of dealing with dad? Like, what was going through your head?
Yeah, so I was excited for March. I was excited to quit my job so I could, move on to this next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, of course, beginning of March is emotional, but at the same time, I had such hope, because I know that dad would be so proud of what we're doing and the decision to work together. I've heard from so many people that working with family is like the best decision that they could make. And so, I was really empowered by that, and just knowing that we're both on the same track now of being entrepreneurs. And I just think dad would totally agree with us with this decision. And so that gave me some sense of um, hopefulness with this whole decision. And yeah, I was excited to quit my job, have work remote. There's lots of emotions, but I felt
Mm-hmm.
very confident about the whole thing until COVID started taking over.
So let's pause really quick. Just one more thing on dad. What is
Hmm.
like, just because I talk so much about like how his passing, changed me. Is there like a philosophy of his, or a phrase of his, or something that like you think about a lot in your everyday life, or that motivates you? I'd love to talk like about him.
Yeah, so I think his positive mindset is not anything that he's ever said, but just kind of the way that he really lived life to the fullest. Was always positive, was always trying to learn something new, always happy to take risks with I don't know necessarily with his career, but just in life generally. I just feel like dad was, such a spiritual and positive guy, and he just never seemed to fail with anything that he did, and so I really um, I try to embody that as much as I can, because nothing bad has ever come out of taking risks and doing something that you might not be completely sure of, and I think dad always voiced that, and so that's always stuck with me.
Yeah, totally. He did. And we're also lucky that like our mom still really like supports all of this that we do too. She's
Yeah,
like very pro risk as well. And she's definitely like been the in the front row of like my whole journey this whole time. We're really
yeah,
lucky with both of our
definitely
parents.
mom has been our number one support since
Yeah.
day one and continues to be.
Okay, so okay, so March 3rd passes and you're getting excited to leave your job and you know you're going to leave it on March 13th and I am away on my honeymoon. So this is I'm going to share like a little bit about what it was like being in a different country like while New York was pretty much falling to its knees in real time. So when we left on our honeymoon, I think there had been a couple of cases in Long Island, but it hadn't really come to Manhattan yet. Definitely didn't look anything like what we're dealing with now, where this is one of the most fatal things ever to happen in New York City. And my husband and I did talk a little bit about if we should like maybe not go on our honeymoon, but not really, just because we just thought like it wasn't, or well, we didn't know how it was going to be, and so we just didn't think we should like stay here in fear. So we ended up going to Sri Lanka and the Maldives for the first two stops of our honeymoon. And it was pretty low key there. Like you heard about it a little, but we just had normal precautions. Like we just washed our hands constantly and we didn't shake hands with anyone and didn't touch our face, disinfected every airplane seat we were on, etc. And then right before we were leaving the Maldives to go to Thailand, which was the last stop of our honeymoon, we, heard that Trump was banning planes from Europe. And that is when we knew, like, I would say that was like the beginning of the end kind of for New York and for the US. That's when it just felt like, oh my God, this is real. And after that, it was almost like every hour you'd hear something else like traumatic about what was going on. And I remember us leaving the Maldives to go to Thailand and being in the Maldives airport and like looking up at the screen, seeing when our flight to Bangkok would leave and seeing that there was like another flight to Dubai. And we had flown when we had come to Asia, we had originally had our layover in Dubai. So we were like, should we be going back to New York right now? Like, should we go to Dubai and try to get back to New York? Like, I don't even know if we should be going to Thailand. And we ended up going to Thailand and we had a great honeymoon. In no ways can I really complain, especially considering, how much more awful and disruptive this has been for so many other people. But I would say for the kind of last half of our honeymoon being in Thailand, several times a day, we were, reanalyzing, like, should we leave to New York right now? But then on the other end, like emailing apartment owners in Bangkok to see if we like how long we could rent their apartment for, thinking that we might end up needing to stay in Thailand for a lot longer. I didn't know if we could get back to New York. I didn't know if we should be in New York because I knew it was so dangerous. So
Mm-hmm.
it was just kind of a mess. And we ended up deciding to come back to New York because we were very concerned that if we stayed in Bangkok for honestly only another few days or even a week, that there was a chance we would not be able to leave Thailand or get back into New York, just at the rate things were going. Like 2 days after we left Sri Lanka closed its borders. And then a few days after we left the Maldives, same thing. And we're like, okay, we can't push our luck this much. Like we've gotten so lucky, because if we just would have left on our honeymoon and done the whole thing, like literally 2 or
Yeah.
3 days later, we would have maybe never been, or I don't know where we'd be. So anyway, we came back to New York. We're very safe. We're very lucky. But it was very, very bizarre to like see happen from abroad and just hearing about what's happening in New York. And meanwhile, I think it was the last day we were in the Maldives, like right before Trump announced that travel ban, Abby quit her job. And so Abby, I'll let you take your side of the story from here. It was like so exciting that you quit your job.
Yeah, I was so excited. I think it was 2 or 3 days before Trump announced the I don't know if it was the lockdown or maybe just the travel ban. I think it was the lockdown. Yeah. So yeah, I was on a high that Friday that I quit. I quit early in the morning, said bye to everybody at my office, was just so excited to just start with Leah and, you know, feeling really confident about everything. And then 2 days later, that whole weekend I was able to celebrate. And then 2 days later was when it was announced that we were on lockdown, which was just a whirlwind of emotions. I mean, I had a trip planned like the week after. I quit as well to go to Colorado to go skiing. All the resorts closed. I mean, it just went from 0 to 100 very quickly. And like you said, it was like every hour it was a new update. I mean, all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, can't do that, can't do that, can't do that. And it was crazy. So it was kind of a bummer because I was planning on having 2-3 weeks of freedom of traveling and just slowly getting myself ready to be full-time with you. And you know, I was still excited to start with you full-time, but it was a whole different kind of transition.
Well, right, because we had planned on working in person together. I mean,
Yeah,
we
exactly.
are, you know, we live close to each other in New York City. We're very close, like we hang out a lot. And I haven't seen you in over a month. I haven't seen you since I've gotten back from my honeymoon because we can't even see each other.
I know.
So yeah, so your world kind of turned upside down quickly. You thought you were going to have these few weeks off before you and I started together. And then you get some news about an old coworker.
Yes. So I think it was that following Tuesday or Wednesday after I had quit. My boyfriend, who also works at the investment bank that I was at, got an email saying that a coworker was tested positive in our office, and he was last seen in the office like March 11th or 12th or something. And the last time that I was there was the 13th. And so that straight away, you know, I wasn't scared. I mean, a little bit, but I was just unsettling, just knowing that, okay, this is real, you know, this is, it was actually New York City, because we didn't know how many cases there were at that point. It was still very early on. And then, so my boyfriend actually started showing symptoms around that time that he got that email, was like really when he started going downhill, and we're just like, uh-oh. And then his roommate was very, very sick as well. He, I think was even sick before Jared was.
Like, what were their
And
symptoms, their early on symptoms?
so Jared, he had chills. He got a fever, headaches. Headaches was like a big thing, which is so interesting. His roommate as well had a fever for, I think, like 5 days straight. He had it really tough, and just a minor dry cough. You know, it wasn't really intense, but it was there, and you're just like, where is this coming from? And I started showing symptoms kind of around the same time that Jared did. Not all I had was a headache. I had a headache for about 2 days straight, and I was like, oh, that's weird. I don't really get headaches. And then I was fine for a few days. Jared and his roommate were still really not okay. I was fine for like 3 days. I was working out. I was feeling great. I was like, oh, you know, maybe I'm just getting lucky here. Or we even were considering maybe they didn't have COVID.
You
You
just
know,
were
we're like,
sick with something else.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're like, maybe, you know, this is just a cold or like the flu or something.
Right.
But then I went downhill, like a few days after them, and I never had a fever, thank God, but I did have a cough. My body really ached. I was so tired. I was really congested, and it was tough. It was just really, really tiring. And I don't get sick. My boyfriend doesn't get sick. His roommate hasn't been sick in years. And we're just like, this can't be a coincidence. Like, we have it. And then I ended up having a virtual doctor's appointment just to, you know, ask the doctor if I was doing all the right things to kind of take care of myself. And she asked me if, you know, what my symptoms were. And then she was like, have you lost your taste and your smell? And I was like, yes, I lost that yesterday. This was like a week after my first symptoms is when I lost my
Right.
taste and smell. It was, yeah, 7-8 days after my headaches first started. And she's like, that's actually the first question we ask patients right now. That's the biggest thing that we're seeing, is people losing their taste and smell. And so that is kind of what confirmed it for her. Jared's roommate also lost it. Jared never lost his taste and smell, but I mean, based on that, she was like 95% chance you have COVID. So I was never tested for it. In New York, I don't really know what the policies are everywhere else in America or the world, but you can't get tested unless you're a severe case. And I wasn't
Which
having any
is right.
yeah,
You're young.
like respiratory issues, which I wasn't. I had like a very minor dry cough, but I wasn't having problems breathing or anything. So she's like, just stay home. Like that's all you can
Right.
do right now, you know, rest, stay home, lots of fluids. So that's what I did. And yeah, so it's just crazy to think about it too. I mean, all three of us had it, and you know, we're never gonna, it was never recorded, it will never be recorded that we had it, you know. So it's just like, how many other people in this city have it,
Right.
and all throughout the world that just isn't gonna be reported. It's crazy. But I was very lucky to be healthy. I recovered and I'm feeling back to normal now.
And it's such a bummer because now they're, you know, starting to say at the time of this recording, I mean, who knows, everything's changing so quickly, but like there's a possibility that those who had it could, you know, donate their plasma to be used as antibodies for those who are at higher risk. But
Mm-hmm.
because you couldn't be tested because there's limited tests, you can't even do that. And that's like, that sucks, because it would be great if you could help people. You're young, you're healthy. But because you don't have like, you know, because you didn't have the official test. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I'm just glad that you're okay. And it was crazy to watch. I remember for like a week, you kind of were on and off. And then it was just like into the deep end, couldn't get out of bed. You couldn't walk. You
Mm-hmm.
were like so weak. It was just it was
Yeah, that
very
was
like,
another thing. I felt very dizzy, and a lot of people have said that as well. You just feel very out of it. So
mhm.
it just like hits you kind of everywhere. The only thing you don't feel is like nauseous, as far as I can tell. But
Everything else
everything
sucks.
else, yeah, everything else just like comes with it. It was insane, and it came in like phases, and it was a solid 10 days of weird symptoms just all over the place. But
Yeah, well, now you and Jared, it's been like 7 days at least since your last symptoms. So you guys are able to
mm-hmm.
like go on walks and
Yep.
sleep, which I'm sure is really helpful. So obviously, very grateful you're feeling better. And for anyone out there listening, Abby, you know, got lucky. This is very, very serious. So just because she didn't have to go to the hospital doesn't mean other people won't. So please
Mm-hmm.
stay home, please stay home, please stay home is my plea. Okay, so yeah, and just like from the business perspective, like Abby's about to start like 4 days later, and she cannot get out of bed. She has the coronavirus. It was kind of an interesting thing to navigate. I mean, not kind of, it was a very interesting thing to navigate. And I was like trying to make sure, I was constantly like trying to read about the benefits for small businesses, how I could make sure she was protected in case like she did need to take time off, and you know that she would still get paid for that. And if for any, I didn't know what was going to happen. So it was kind of a whirlwind, but I think all things considered, we got super lucky because she did start feeling better, you know, before her official start date. And I was able to do most of the work that she usually does beforehand. And our sister Ellie, who also helps out with some things, helped out. So, you know, it definitely went as good as it could have. It was just crazy seeing all this happening, knowing that you had this coronavirus, knowing I couldn't like see you or be there or help you or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, we came out on the other side okay, and you are healthy, and that's all that matters. Okay, so now, you know, here we are, fast forward a little bit, and you are starting, and we're still kind of navigating this space of not being able to be together, and in general, just life being so much more different. And I know for me, like work is something that I inherently love because I love like what it's creating. But that looks so different now. And so many of the things that we are excited about and look forward to really are just so unknown. And I know that for you, you know, you came out of feeling really sick, but then kind of maybe felt like you were going to come back to like life is normal, and it's just like not. So like, how has it been for you now that you're not sick, and how is work feeling for you?
Yeah, so it was tough after I started feeling better, being excited that I was healthy and, you know, about to start my new job. And I was just like, oh, but the lifestyle is still going to be the same. I mean, at least it's kind of making learning working from home a bit easier because I'm just forced to. I mean, I was at a 9 to 5 desk job for 2.5 years. And so I don't know, I guess I've learned pretty quickly on, what working from home is like, which, I'd have to get used to anyways, even if we were in this position. I mean, although we were planning on going to, you know, uh, workspaces so we could work together, um, but I feel good about work. I mean, I feel like I've really been able to focus on work
Hmm.
because it's kind of all I can do at the moment. So it's been tough, not, trying to navigate this new lifestyle of not really being able to leave my apartment. But at the same time, it's given me a lot of time to just start understanding more of what you do, learning more about the people that you support, how you do it, everything like that. So, I mean, it was a little bit tough at first, but I've really kind of learned to love it and just dedicating my time to work right now. So it's kind of like a blessing in disguise because it's all I am focusing on. And
Yeah.
it's good for the beginning.
Have you had any like surprises or unexpected challenges that you've experienced since either you started in April or since you started with me last year? Like, what did you not know about what I do, or what's been hard that you didn't think would be?
I guess just when we had our meeting a couple of days ago about tracking the funneling, all of like that marketing that you do and the branding, that's all very new to me. So that's been a little bit tougher, and
Yeah.
just how what all goes into that for you to be successful with it. And I still don't even know half of it.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's the biggest thing, and just not being able to be with you in person. It's kind of
Yeah.
tough because I mean, I know you'll record yourself doing something for an example, which is really helpful, but there's something about being in person and just showing me the ropes when I'm actually right there is a lot different. So I feel like I've been learning, teaching myself a lot of things, which is fine, but it's difficult at times, and I want to be successful in my role. And so sometimes I don't know if I'm doing something right, and of course I'll talk to you about it, but it's a little bit tougher not being able to be together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like marketing was probably the biggest thing, and you're like the branding part of the business
Yeah.
is
No,
really
it's really complex. Like, and I think that I don't think about it so much anymore because, I live and breathe it, but it was very hard for me to learn. And I think that I know you can do it because I didn't have any background in it when I started. But, and I just really dove in, but I was really intimidated at first. And there were plenty of moments. I've had so many different milestones where at one time I literally just thought like, I will never get that. Like a good example is Facebook ads. Like I just like didn't look at them for like a year and a
mm-hmm.
half because they were so foreign to me. They did not seem intuitive at all. They were expensive. I didn't really understand how to use them strategically. So I just like kind of didn't. And obviously I leaned into it and it ended up like those decisions have been the best ones that I've made because they are hard, so not everyone does them. So if you know how to do them well, then it will serve you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, this stuff is like it's complicated,
It
and
is.
you've done a great job.
It's very complex. There's a lot that goes into it, and I had no idea. So
Yeah.
I'm still learning, but yeah,
Well, I'm
it takes a
grateful for
lot.
your help, and the whole like figuring it out, that's the name of the game. So
Mm-hmm. That's what I
don't worry
like
about
about it,
that.
though. I really love it.
Yeah. What would you say, like, what is kind of your favorite part or a harder part about working with family? I get that question a lot.
Yeah. So I think something that we're gonna have to get used to is just kind of separating our business and personal lives from each other, but at the same time, like as we've talked about before, it's kind of nice that we can have sister time that's just like going out to dinner or getting drinks and brainstorming new ideas together and talking about work. So I think it's a good and bad thing. I think sometimes, like, if I we haven't yet, but if we are having kind of an off day with each other business wise, it could
Yeah.
flow into our personal lives. So I think that might be the biggest thing, but so far it's been fine. Yeah, I think that's the number one that I always think about.
Yeah. No, I
What
think
about
like
you?
just over communication is key. But yeah, like even a few days ago, I was just feeling a little stir crazy, and I was just feeling like really sad about everything that was happening because we both live actually on the Upper East Side. And it was the morning that they on the news were showing how they're building like a pop-up hospital in Central Park, which is very close to where I live. And that just like obviously was so upsetting to see, just knowing that like literally right at your doorstep. I mean, it's sad to see anywhere in the world. I'm not trying to say that like New York is the only place going through this, but of course it does feel more real when like you can look out your window and see the empty streets, the people walking around with masks. Like it feels dystopic. And just even like yesterday, a police car drove up and down my empty street, over where I live. And it was like just driving really slowly, and the windows were open, and it was blasting New York, New York. And it was like, it was trying to lift the spirits, but it was just so sad and like heartbreaking. It was so sad. But anyway, yeah, like a week or two ago, that's when the pop-up Mount Sinai Hospital came up. And I was just feeling I was just really upset. And I was just like, oh my God, I need to take a break. I can't work right now. And, like went to go text our family text. Like we always have this text going with our mom and our other sister, and wanted to just be like, this is like, I'm having a hard time processing this today. I'm really sad, but also recognizing that like, this was Abby, one of her first few days working full time. And like, I wanted to be a leader for her, and I wanted to, make her feel comfortable and make her feel confident that everything was going to be okay, and everything is going to be okay. But, just kind of trying to find that balance and not having the ability to be like, oh, I just want to talk to my family right now. Because my family is also like the work environment too. So little things like that, but definitely nothing that doesn't make it super worth it, and nothing that just like a lot of communication can't fix or solve.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I agree.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, March ended up being a really good month for us, all things considered. Abby is safe and healthy, and she didn't have to go to the hospital, which is the biggest prayer, when anyone gets the virus here at this point, is you're just hoping they don't need medical attention, because we do not have the bandwidth to give them medical attention. So we're very grateful she's healthy. We're grateful for our dad, who is in a lot of ways my business partner. he helps guide me a lot. I really think he's, spiritually here with us.
His work ethic definitely has stuck with us.
Yeah. And you're successfully on board, and things are good. And all things considered, considering the pandemic, considering I was gone for over 2 weeks of the month, and, considering all of the reasons why things were not supposed to go smoothly, our business was a profitable, successful, still a multi-5-figure month. Very, very grateful for that. I'm not sharing that to brag or be insensitive to how many people are going through financial hardship. I am sharing it because I want everyone to know that there is hope. And if you are an online entrepreneur, you don't need to buy into the common narrative right now that everything is awful, the economy is crashing, so therefore you can't spend any money. That is not the truth for everyone. And if you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't necessarily have to be your truth right now. And we've been very fortunate that that is not our truth right now. So keep going, keep believing in yourself, keep believing in the good that is there. And we hope you liked this episode. Abby, is there anything you want to wrap up and say before we close?
Well, thanks again for having me. And I'm so excited I'm excited to start like really getting in the flow of things, and hopefully life going back to somewhat normal soon, and just being a part of this community and like watching so many entrepreneurs be successful. I think it's so inspiring, and I'm so excited to be part of it. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, thanks for sharing with us, and thanks for being so candid about what you went through. And I know that all of our clients love having your support too. So thank you for everything you do. All right, visionaries, we hope you enjoyed this. DM me if you want to say hi to Abby and welcome her, if you want to chat about how COVID-19 is impacting you or your business, or if you just want to have a little shout out and know that you're not alone, let me know. You can find us at Urban 20 something, and we will talk to you soon. Here is to your biggest vision.
Thank you.